Right, guys, thank you for hanging out here, waiting for us. The guys in Atlanta getting situated for Sherrod. We were wrong. It's not a sweep.
No, we're gonna have to put the broomsticks away for a little bit.
It's not a sweep. What happened, buddy?
They've listen. The Hawks, give them credit. They came home. They played a really good game. They got
They
a
did.
lot of guys tripping in. I mean, Bogdan Bogdanovich off the bench. He was literally perfect in the first half. I mean, in my perfect meaning, he made every single shot he took.
Yep.
Second half, I thought they got Trae Young going a little bit, and by they I mean the Celtics defense. I thought they did a good job really for the first two games in the first half of this one, but they just allowed him to get loose, and once he got loose, it was a wrap. And even with all the things that Atlanta did really well, the Celtics had a chance to tie this game with about a minute to play when Tatum missed that pretty wide open three. Al Horford missed a wide open three.
Jaylen
Marcus
missed
Smart
one.
missed
Yep.
a couple. Jaylen
Yep.
missed one. When they go back and look at the tape, they're going to see all the opportunities that they had to at least make this thing a little bit more interesting. Shots that they don't make all those shots, but they typically don't miss all those shots as well. So
Yeah.
Atlanta, give them props. They came home. They got what they needed to avoid the sweep. But I do think Sunday is going to be very interesting. I think we're going to see a dramatically different game on Sunday. I think we'll see something closer to what we saw in the first two games on Sunday.
Well, a couple things that pop for sure, just in terms of this game. I mean, you shot in the first two games. The Celtics' 3-point attempts were down, something Missoula doesn't like. Tonight, they got it going with 48 attempts. They hit 15 threes in the first, cooled off a little bit. First half, cooled off a little bit in the second half. They still made 21 for 48, 43%. Again, they needed a few late here, and they weren't able to get them. They shot nearly 50% from the field. So again, you don't lose a lot of games when you play like this, and it's easy to see the 130 number on the other side and say the defense was horrible. The defense wasn't great by any means, no question about that. But Atlanta just hit everything, including a zillion tough shots, like in people's face. I mean, some really bad. I mean, they really hit a lot of tough shots.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this game that if you're the Celtics, I don't think they're going to lose any sleep over the fact that they lost this game, particularly when you look at how well Atlanta executed offensively. And again, you start going down the line of
Really
guys.
well, and some really just in your mug shots in addition to
Yeah,
playing well. Yeah.
but the one thing that jumped out at me in the first half, and I think it's one of those things that Quinn Snyder, this felt like one of those false positive wins. Like it's a positive that you won, but it's a false if you think that you have finally figured out some like cheat code to win this series. Because one of the things I did notice in the first half was that as well as they were playing, there was one guy in the first half who was not playing well, and that was Trae Young.
Yeah.
At one point, every single player on this entire Hawks roster who saw action, and it was like 8, 9 guys were either +2 or better, except for Trae. He was the only one that, and
Yeah.
he was like a zero. Then he quickly went down to a -2, and it seemed that that's something that the Celtics. I didn't think they really took advantage of a lot of those mistakes that Trae was making, whether it's a turnover,
Yeah.
whether it's a bad shot attempt, and again, credit the Hawks because I think they absolutely deserve the credit for this one. I don't think it was so much what Boston didn't do. I think it was just what Atlanta was
I,
able to do.
Combo. You could get
Yeah,
more stops. They gave them some easy buckets. They got
yeah,
lost on rotations. They didn't rotate out. They gave some open threes, but Atlanta hit a ton of. They
yeah,
hit every open shot,
and
and then
dominated the glass.
and
They
they
were real.
dominated the glass.
Yeah.
I can't remember the final total. I was looking at it right before, but it's almost a 20 rebound edge there.
Yeah, plus 19. They were plus 19.
Yeah, pretty significant. 29, 48, 49. Yeah. I mean, that's bad. And what's interesting is like you only played Rob 19 minutes on a game you're getting killed on the glass. This felt like the kind of game they might have gone double big, but Atlanta was shooting so well. I just don't think that they were going to give that up because they're, maybe afraid the bigs aren't going to get out on the shooters. So kind of a pick your poison scenario with how the Celtics played it. It didn't help that Derek White got in foul trouble early because you got out of your rotations,
Right.
but you got bonus minutes out of Grant, who came in early because of that trouble and played well. So again, almost nothing went wrong for you
Right.
outside of, again, not your best defensive effort and the Hawks hitting everything. But you look at a lot of things. You got a Grant contribution tonight. You got a ridiculous Marcus Smart game. I thought, like I said, Derek White didn't have his best game because I do think he got taken out of it early with those two quick fouls. Call it the Foster effect, whatever you want to call it. That really does change the dynamic of things, and it makes it tough. But other than that, great Marcus game. Played really well. We'll get into some of the stuff that wasn't great. I know, like, it's the whole, great power, great responsibility thing. You're going to look at Tatum. You're going to look at Brown tonight what did you need? You probably needed your stars to put you up over the top on a night like this.
Yeah, this was not a good Jaylen game at all.
It's not a good Jaylen game at all. And again, I know it's like, okay, we're going to talk about Jaylen when to pick on him, but there's something, you can decide which one it is. The hand's in his head and it's limiting his offensive approach, the way he's able to attack, which I think is likely. Or two, he just had a bad game. Pick your poison. One of those two, he's got to be more Jaylen. The Jaylen who closed the season was an assassin, just give me the ball and go. Instant offense could get you whatever you wanted. You don't have that option with him right now. Derek White was your number 2 offensive option. Last game, he didn't have a terrific game. Marcus Smart had to step up and take a ton of shots. You're missing something with Jaylen a little bit right now.
Yeah, and that's it throws everything off when you don't have him attacking, because that's the thing that he's been so great at all season. And it was pretty evident that it just wasn't going to happen tonight. I thought, on that one play near the end there where they forced a turnover, he has the ball, he's running the break, and he kicks it to Al, as opposed to attacking and trying to finish at the rim.
He looked like a big dribbling up the court there. Uneasy, guy coming behind him, afraid to turn it over, pulled up, gave it to somebody right next to him. But boom.
Yeah, that was one of about maybe 3 or 4 plays all game long where Jaylen clearly wasn't Jaylen. And we don't, and again, as you pointed out, John, we don't know whether it's the hand, whether it's mental, whether it's just he just had one of those nights. I'm watching his body language when he's not have the ball in his hands and just how he's moving. I think it's mental. I think it's more mental than anything, because he has stretches where that hand is not an issue, and you can tell that he's just playing. And when he has problems with it, like I thought near the end there where he threw it to Al, I thought it was a mental thing. I thought he was thinking that, please don't let me get hit on my hand, or damn, let me make sure that I make the right play, instead of just reacting, which is where he's been so good this year. So,
hey guys.
Yeah, not great.
Not great, Jaylen.
Yeah, not great, Jaylen. And not great. You didn't get a lot out of Rob tonight, in terms of his activity and certainly his minutes. He didn't really impact the game when he was in there. So you just, you didn't get best effort out of a couple of guys tonight. And I think that hurts you. But again, let's say who you did get a good effort out of, because, you're talking about, look, the Celtics are still going to win this series.
That's what I mean when I say that, that false positive. I mean, if you're Atlanta, it's great that you won the game and you avoid the sweep and you're in theory back in the series. But I didn't really see anything that made me feel the series is going to turn out any differently. It's just going to be extended for a game longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Give the Hawks credit; they played a hell of a game and they absolutely deserve to win this thing.
They did. It's a clean win. Yeah.
I just don't see what they were able to do being something sustainable, particularly when you look at all the opportunities that the Celtics had throughout this game that we have seen them throughout the course of the season. They capitalized on it. It just didn't happen tonight, and that's fine. Let the Hawks absolutely relish this win because they deserve it and they earned it.
Right. Yep, they did. So let's talk about Grant. So when I say that is they're still going to win. So let's talk about something that might have, kind of long-reaching, far-reaching implications, which is Grant Williams re-entering the rotation. I wonder whether it was a plan to do it all along or sorry, I didn't see him there. I wonder if that was a plan to do it all along, or it was simply because White got into foul trouble early and he put him in and then stayed with him because he was playing well. I'm not really sure there. It's strange to not be involved at all and then to be involved, right, not prominently, but significantly.
I think it's because of the foul situation, because there's no other rhyme or reason why. It wasn't like Atlanta was playing rotations and lineups that was radically different than what we saw in the first 2 games. It's just that tonight those guys are making shots, and tonight you just happen to, the guy that basically, your Mr. Utility guy, Derek White, was in foul trouble, so you had to find who's the next man up on this team that doesn't play, and it's Grant.
Yeah.
Josue, what up, man?
What up, Sherrod? What's going on? I gave you a space over there so we wouldn't be, have the echo effect. Sherrod
when I saw you leave, I was like, thank you, Josue, appreciate it. Way to show your OG some respect. I like that.
I picked up on that cue. Like, yeah, you're not moving, gotcha.
Way to show your OG some respect. I like that.
Always. You already know. You know how I go. You know how I do. I'm glad you said that about the Celtics team. Sherrod, what Joe Mazzulla did in putting Grant into the situation, because I feel like, yeah, it did have to do with Derek White getting those quick fouls, those 2 fouls in the first quarter, but I also feel like his attitude has been much more positive ever since that first game back in Boston. I just felt like, I mean, Bobby and I spoke about it briefly, but he was sulking a bit. It was clear that he had been spoken to and he knew the course of action, that he wasn't going to get playing time. But you saw a completely different Grant in game 2. On his feet, cheering guys on, being very positive. I thought it was a big difference compared to game 1. And then we don't know exactly what happened in between games 2 and 3, but I'm thinking maybe he's looking better in practice. And yeah, but Sherrod, like what you said though, White getting into foul trouble, that probably doesn't happen for Grant, or maybe it does happen, but later on throughout this game. But that was a great opportunity, I thought, for Mazzulla to put him in there, sort of change things up. He knocks down a 3, keep the Hawks sort of on their heels. And he knocked on a few more, right? He really found his outside touch, and I think because of that, we'll definitely see him again in game 4. I'm just wondering when is Joe Mazzulla going to put him in, depending on how the game plays itself out.
I'm not convinced we'll see him in game 4. I think he should be in game 4. I think he's played it well enough to where he deserves minutes in game 4, but I'm not convinced he's going to be in game 4. You know what, Josue, the one thing he did do, and we're going to talk about obviously all the shots he made, and that's great, but to me, it was what he didn't do that was just as important. Like, he picked up an early foul, and we know how Grant is when he picks up fouls. He's trying to politic that thing as if he's trying to get, he's trying to get a call. He just raised his hand, ran his ass back, got back on defense, and was just ready. Let's just play. Let's ball. Little things like that are going to get him back into the rotation. Play, do your job. If you're open, make shots. If you have a chance to get a rebound, do that. If you pick up a foul and you know damn well you fouled a dude, get your ass back and play some defense and stop trying to politic. Chill with that. You clearly see that does not work for you. So how about trying something that's different that might work? And so I think the little things that he did in this game, including he drew a couple of really big charges. Grant just played a really smart game, made shots, and kept his mouth shut. You do those 3 things, you're probably going to be back in rotation before you know it.
That's what you're supposed to do, Sherrod. Exactly. I just think it's one of those things where it's like, all right, you're seeing what gets you on the floor. Keep doing that, and it's inevitable. So, I mean, if it doesn't happen in game 4, I'll be a little surprised, just because I feel like there's a window there for him, especially if you want to obviously get another win and head back to Boston ready to close this thing out. But if not, we'll definitely see him again. I mean, I never thought throughout the entire postseason this was going to be the course of action. I just felt like the way the Celtics were playing without him in the rotation, there was no reason for Mazzulla to shake things up. But obviously tonight was different.
Yeah, I thought he would get in though in one of the first 2 games at home. I thought he would play some.
Yeah. So, Josue, from your vantage point, what was the biggest issue tonight?
Man, between the transition, the Celtics' transition defense and just guarding the 3-point arc, but that was an historic performance, at least the first half from the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, for them to score 70 plus, I mean, set the franchise record. I mean, it's hard to imagine them doing that again. So yeah, you look at the margin of error here in the Celtics, the way they closed out the fourth quarter. I thought I would have. Someone like Jaylen Brown could have came up, if he was able to find somewhat of a offensive rhythm, but he did it. I felt like that really worked in the Hawks' favor, whereas Trae Young, little by little, was getting his, right? I mean, he wasn't aggressive in the first quarter. He was trying to help other guys, and then he found his offense late in the fourth, which obviously, was perfect timing for the Hawks. But he had some tough 3-pointers, man. Some stuff that, that 3 over Al, shots that you can't defend any better, and you look into game 4, seeing if they can do that again. And I just don't think they can, honestly. But the Celtics have to tighten things up on defense. The rebounding, what is it, plus 20 for Atlanta.
19,
that's the kind of stuff that the Hawks are looking at beforehand, right? They know that that's the way they could beat the Celtics team, and obviously shooting. I mean, Quinn Snyder doubled down on that before game 2, and he said the same thing heading into this one. Like, look, these guys have to shoot. They have to get right into the shot. If not, pass it. If not, drive. Like, don't waste any time. And you certainly saw that, especially with guys like Saddiq Bey and Bogdanovich, who really got going in game 2. But Saddiq Bey is another guy that they really needed to, and just to keep the Celtics, having to defend the 3-point arc. And then Trae got comfortable. I thought the Celtics guarding him in the pick and roll set, he got a lot of space. And again, maybe it's because he wasn't so demonstrative in that first half, or at least in that first quarter. But when he was, I mean, the Celtics were just they gave him too much space, man. And he was able to get into the paint and get that floater going. That's the way he can get going.
Yeah,
And then
he got outplayed and
those
dropped.
ridiculous, absurd three-pointers.
Yeah. I mean, that was a tough one there, but yeah, they're playing drop and Al's dropping there, and
Way too low.
He was making things happen, and they got burnt a little bit there, no doubt about it. And then that three was friggin' insane.
He was good. He was good.
Man,
I mean, Trey
when
was
Al made
really good.
When Al made those threes, man, I was thinking, man, maybe this could be. The Celtics were right there. I mean, it just felt like, again, just a couple of those absurd shots was just a little too much for the Celtics. And then that last play, Jaylen for three. I don't know, man. I just felt like they could have ran something better. I like seeing Missoula get Jaylen Brown involved, but quick inbound pass for the three, it just wasn't the greatest shot.
One of the low key coaching adjustments that Joe Mazzulla made late in the game, and it was only for like a few possessions, but I thought it was really interesting. He basically went offense-defense with Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon. Where they had like 3 or 4 possessions where they didn't get a shot. He took Marcus out, put in Malcolm Brogdon for like 2 or 3 possessions, and then when they were near the Celtics bench on defense, he brought Marcus back in for defensive purposes and took Malcolm out. I love to see that happen because it means that Joe he's starting to recognize that there's certain situations where I need my best offensive guys on the floor, and certain situations where I need Smart and that lockdown defensive unit. Again, it didn't obviously work out the way they were hoping to, but I love the fact that Joe is recognizing that and isn't just, it's not something that we got to talk to him about in a post-game press conference, but it's something he's actually doing in the game so that we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to bring up the fact that he's not recognizing that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see moments like that in Game 4 where he'll just take Marcus out for a couple possessions and get Malcolm in there just to give him a little extra juice offensively, and then take him back out and bring Marcus back in to do what he does defensively.
It's funny. You see it with bigs. You don't see it as much with guards,
Right.
So, when you do see that. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know where else to go with this. Like, if Jimmy were here, we would have wrapped the show in 30 seconds. Make Miss League. All right, we'll see you guys later.
They can't. Okay, can I do a Jimmy press real quick?
Yeah.
They can't do this again. There's no way.
But this was the classic make Miss League game. And it wasn't miss. I mean, it was just make more.
Right.
Than the other. Celtics shot fine. So again, I don't know where you're gonna really,
And I get that's why I don't think that there's like this I don't think the Celtics are freaking out about this game.
This isn't a rage game, like this isn't like
right.
Like I'm not here to rage on this post game. It wasn't like these guys suck, fire Missoula, Jaylen sucks, Tatum's not the guy. It just isn't that game,
It wasn't.
And
it wasn't anything that was like real like demonstrative or just anger inducing that went on in the game. I mean, no one got kicked between the legs. There weren't any bad technicals or the officiating. It wasn't great, but I mean it wasn't like egregious to the point where you feel that you got to check in and it's just call the bullshit.
No, it wasn't one of those.
No, it was. I mean, this was a pretty good game. That one team, I think the Celtics played good, and another team played great, and that's what happens when a team plays great and you just do pretty good. You lose.
If you needed, and if you're a Boston fan tonight and you needed one team to win, you needed the Bruins to win.
Yes.
So the Celtics sacrificed themselves tonight so the Bruins could live.
There you go.
And so you guys are going to have to live with that, okay? You're going to have to, it's going to have to be okay. We will tell you. If you want to get in on any of the action here with these teams cooking in the playoffs or Major League Baseball, which is underway, as you know, FanDuel is the official partner of Major League Baseball, also the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Guys, I got to tell you, I say this all the time, this promo is going away. So get it now while you can. FanDuel.com/Boston. Deposit 10, bet 5, 200 in bonus bets, and then you can just mess around with that. Do whatever you want. Take some long odds. See if you get lucky. One of my buddies just cashed in. Just texted me. He got this. No way.
What did he do?
Is this live? Where he got that parlay, that crazy parlay?
He got he got 2 good bets in. He hit the exact score. Bruins 4-2. $10 wager paid out $210. Bang.
Nice.
And just missed the same game parlay. But he hit the exact score. That was a pretty good one. 4-2 Bruins win. Again, like I said, get in on that action. FanDuel.com/Boston.
Nice.
200 in bonus bets right away as soon as you kind of make that first little $5 wager. So check it out. And again, if you do go through FanDuel.com/Boston, they know we sent you, and that makes them happy and us happy. So again, back to the game, guys. I don't want to get. I don't know what to do other than just say, like, all right, what do you do different? Like, are there game 3 adjustments here? I don't believe there necessarily are. I just think you play better. But is Joe going to look at it and say, you get killed on the glass? Is he gonna say, I want to go more double big? Is he going to try something different here? I'm not sure.
No, I think the biggest adjustment that they're going to make is just really just try to tighten up that defense. And I don't know whether Trey was able to get so free because of the foul trouble. But to be honest with you, I don't think that was the case because it felt as though Trey was beating Derek White off the dribble consistently, even before the fouls started adding up. So I can't use that as a reason or justification for why they play poorly. Derek White has to be better defensively, because all the great things that he did in the first 2 games, the one thing that I think if you had to take away everything he did and leave him with one discernible skill set to help this team win, it would be his defense on Trey. The other stuff, they can find ways to manufacture what he does, but his defense was so critical in those first 2 games. And tonight, it just wasn't there. I mean, you look at the space that Trey was able to get for that floater, and as Josue pointed out, the floater is one of his go-to shots. Yeah. That's when he's rolling, when he started.
That's when he's cooking.
Yeah, and when you give him space, he's smart enough to know how to take that shot and avoid it getting sent 5 rows back. So you can't give him space. That's what they did a great job in the first 2 games. And I thought for the first half of this game, I thought they did a pretty good job of that as well. But again, he's too good to shut down altogether. I get that, but you got to be better, particularly when you have a chance to not only put them in a just basically impossible hole to dig out of, but being 3-0. But looking ahead, and we haven't talked about Joel Embiid in his situation. He's not going to play in Game 4. And we're assuming it's just going to be 1 game, but it could be more than that. You just never really know about knee injuries. So, hey, do we have someone that's going to chime in soon, John?
What do you mean? Oh, with postgame?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to hear from Grant. The Embiid thing, did he hurt himself falling one of the 37 times?
It was one of those
times.
That's the funny thing about it. It's like you can't really pinpoint when the hell he hurt the knee because he fell every other damn possession. I mean, if Claxton sneezed, Joel Embiid is like, you know what it reminded me of, John? John,
that's the saddest MVP performance.
John, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like vintage Dwayne Wade when he would drive in the lane and you would just take one step towards him. One of my favorite Rasheed Wallace moments was when they were playing Miami and it was the end of practice and Rasheed was like, "Hey, who is this?" And he just drove into the lane and he just fell down and everyone said, "Dwayne Wade." Hysterical.
Yeah. You can't do it if you're that big. It really looks dumb when you're that big.
It looks hard.
It's like me playing with my kids and they touch me and I pretend to fall and they giggle like crazy. Like, no way could you actually knock me down. You're 5, don't get cocky. But still, we're going to quickly here. We talked a little bit about this being, Bobby will call this the Grant game, even though they lost. We'll remember where we were when Grant Williams scored 14 points or whatever.
Remember that in Atlanta, guys? Remember in Atlanta?
Is Grant going to make lemon squares? Is Grant going to make lemon squares tomorrow or something?
Yeah, some shit like that. So we'll talk about, no, he's a podcaster now. He's coming for me. He's coming for us, guys.
Uh-oh.
Oh, is he back? He used to have that
podcaster.
Cornette. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cornette's coming for. He's coming for me with the baking and the podcasting. I'm starting to get a little self-conscious here, but that's fine. This is Grant Williams talking about playing, and was it surprising?
Did you kind of hear from Joe before Game 1, Game 2 that he might not be part of the rotation for those games?
No, I didn't. But something that you don't expect to hear. You're just a player in a situation. You don't try and coach. You just try your best to focus on what you can control. And that first game when I didn't play, just try to keep the same attitude I would if I was. Just try to cheer on the teammates, bring energy, And same with game 2, and then tonight was just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what decided for him to make me go in. So I went in and tried to play well. And frustrating that we lost that.
You get it.
Okay, interesting. So, I'm a little bored, so I'm going to start a controversy. They hate each other.
Oh, hell.
No, I'm just, but that's, look.
Who knows? Who knows, John? I mean, look, he had an interesting
I'm bored. I'm
relationship.
starting it. I'm putting it out there. No, but
He had an interesting relationship with Ime, and they always say like, no, it's no, animosity or anything. We go back and forth. Like that's just our relationship. But hey, who knows? Who knows the dynamic of those two relationships? But
yeah, I mean, look, it's I don't know. I'll ask you guys this. Because I go back and forth. Like, to me, it's a, players play. And, like, I've never really, been super sympathetic with the, like, especially, like, in a sport like baseball. Oh, he didn't tell me I was the 7th inning guy. I'm used to going in the 8th, so I wasn't mentally prepared. Just when the guy points at you, pitch. When the coach points, just run out there and play really hard.
Right.
It's just basketball. I don't know why you need to know stuff. However, mentally getting geeked up for the playoffs and getting to game 1 and 2 and not playing at all and not being told why, it definitely has a way to. That's what you would do if you hate somebody or you want to break them psychologically. Sit there and think about what you've done. And I'm not going to say a thing to you. So, like, would it have been the worst thing to communicate a little? Like, your time's going to come. Stay sharp, man. It's good. I didn't use you this game. We're not sure how the rotations are going to go against this team. But be ready. You're an important part. Get in there. Go. No, I don't think he's doing that. I don't know if it's because of their relationship or it's just a Joe style thing. It is what it is. Every coach is different. I don't know how important stuff like that is, but it definitely sounds like Grant was like, yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know I wasn't going to play, but I guess I wasn't. And tonight I was, and I don't know why, but I don't know what to expect next game either.
That's just it's a bad. The optics of that are bad, and the actual listening to him talk about it is really bad because it sounds like there is a disconnect there. And to me, the worst thing that can be about all that is that Joe Mazzulla didn't even know that might be an issue for Grant. That he was so irrelevant to the game planning for this series that it didn't even dawn on him that maybe I should talk to and just let him know he's not going to play. But again, we don't know the nature of the dynamics of their relationship because it may very well be one of those tough love type relationships where coach feels that I don't need to tell him that because he needs to be smart enough to figure it out, and this is going to help him down the road when I do need him. He's going to cherish that moment, and it could be one of those teachable moments because if you look at the way he played tonight, again. He made the most of his opportunity. He made the shots that he's supposed to make. He did some good things defensively, and he kept his mouth shut. And if you're Joe Mazzulla, if this was your plan, then it worked perfectly. But if it just happened to work out by accident, you need to be better about this because it's not always going to go like that when you just basically tell a guy is out of the rotation. They have no idea why the hell they're out of it.
Yeah, I mean, and there's people in the chat kind of still trolling Grant on this, which is 0-1 when Grant plays. But it is. Look, I mean, we all know this. I mean, and again, Joe's new to this, but he's coached before. You don't coach everybody the same. You're not the same boss to every single person. You're not the same teacher to every single student. Like, everybody requires something different. You take lumps, you learn along the way. It can't just be like, this is my process, this is how it is. Stars are different. Some people are needier, some people are sensitive. But I mean, ultimately, like in life, everything you do vis-a-vis another person should always be with the design of, I need to get what I want out of this. And what you want out of, meaning like, you don't want to, like, you're talking to somebody who's, difficult at the DMV. Like, what's the point of yelling? You're not going to get your shit done. So, like, you got to take a different approach. Like, Grant, you need him when you need him to answer the bell and come in there. So maybe he needs a little love. Maybe he needs to be told he's pretty. Maybe he needs some explanations, every once in a while. It's not the worst thing. But that being said, the tough love, if it was tough love, worked. So you can't really argue with it. It's just an interesting disconnect. So Ahmed had sent us that soundbite from the locker room. You could hear Bobby in there asking the question. Interesting. It's just interesting why he played and why he didn't play. We don't really have those answers. But Joe said he didn't really factor in I really do have to believe it goes back to what we said before, Sherrod. If White doesn't get into foul trouble and they don't mess with their rotations there the way they did, he probably doesn't get the run.
Right.
He hit a couple threes, so he got a little second half run too. And
Yeah,
that's what happened.
I'm curious to see what happens in Game 4, whether he plays or not, because
he might not. He might go back to 0 again.
Exactly, and I would not be the least bit shocked if he does. But it's not because he doesn't. He shouldn't be out there. It's because Joe just has his set rotation, and Grant's not in that. And if something happens to his set rotation where a guy gets in foul trouble, guess what, Grant? You get your ass out there and play. And I give Grant a lot of credit for not basically being a little punk about it. I mean, Grant, he handled it like a grown-ass man. I don't know how much time coach is going to give me, but damn it, I'm going to make the most of these minutes. If I get wide open shot, damn it, I'm going to take it. I'm going to make it. Defensively, I'm never going to be a 10, 12, 14 rebound guy, but I can draw charges. I can get guys out of position. And Grant did all the things that you would want him to do when he's on the floor. Now, will he get an opportunity again in this series? Who knows? But at least now, Joe has some idea of where Grant's head is at as far as playing the game and playing the game within the game with the referees. I thought this was the best I've seen Grant doing both of those two things on the same night. Because he didn't bitch and moan about the officials, which I love to see him not do that, because I think it always comes back to bite him in the ass at some point in the game. And he just wouldn't allow it to happen. So good for Grant.
Let me ask you this, Josue, because again, when I say it, people get mad at me. So I've lost the ability to say it. But
you're going to say it now, Josue.
No, Sherrod and I talked about it before the game, because there's people in the chat saying, like, I believe this is a problem with the hand situation until it's no longer a problem. And until you see Jaylen looking like the Jaylen at the end of the season, I'm going to assume this is part of the reason why. He had a good game, albeit I actually thought you noticed his hand more. Ironically, you noticed the hand more in the first game in terms of it affecting things that he did than anywhere else, than in games 2 or 3. But his approach in games 2 and 3 was definitely not as attacking, not doing what he would normally do in dribbling into traffic and or transition. A little bit, just off. It's possible it's just an off game, but I do agree, like with a lot of people, is you want to get through this Hawks series and just give him more time and more time and more time to get right. So by the next series, this isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And if Jaylen's in his head a little bit, I mean, I don't blame him. It's just a lot of what happened tonight and the way the Atlanta Hawks got hot. I think if you're Joe Mazzulla and you look at the foul trouble situation, could have been another reason why he went with Grant, especially that early in the game.
That's what we said. Yeah.
Get that outside shot going, and look, this is a reason why I think we probably are going to see Grant again. Maybe not to the same extent of him being one of the first guys off the bench, but just the fact that he went in there and did his job. He knocked down shots, he took some charges, and regardless of what happened and not playing in game 1 or game 2, he's proven himself, right? I mean, I'm sure Joe Mazzulla is like, man, he's not surprised, but he's going to reward him. I think he does, and I think playing him would be great, because it's going to say where Joe Mazzulla stands with Grant. Like, that's what I want you to do. A little bit of everything. Go out there, fight for rebounds, knock down some shots. So yeah, but I also don't expect this to be the same type of game that we saw from Jaylen, to carry over throughout the course of the series. Yeah, he's going to be in his head a little bit, but the Celtics have to do a better job of just trying to get him better looks closer to the rim, attacking. But then again, is he in his head? Is he afraid that someone's going to get hit too hard in the right hand? If that's the case, well, Jaylen has to sort of rip that Band-Aid off and just try to force the issue a bit, especially on offense, where the Celtics, obviously, when Tatum's going and Jaylen is going at the same time, I mean, we saw that what happens, the big lead that these guys can build in a game 1 and game 2. And I think game 4 would be no different if you have both of those guys going, along with the strength of that defense that the Celtics team was playing throughout the course of those first 2 games.
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought Jaylen just did not look uber aggressive, uber assertive, uber attack mode that we were used to seeing. And the fact that he finished with 15 points and he didn't shoot the ball terribly, it wasn't that he just wasn't
passive.
He just wasn't as active and aggressive and attacking them as he has to be. And when you start thinking about what are the potential factors, I don't think there's any question that the hand in some way, shape, or form is impacting his play, whether it's a physical issue or whether it's a mental one where he's giving it more thought than he probably should. Bottom line is he's got to get over it. He's got to find a way. And find a way to just get past that and just play his brand of basketball, which is attacking, looking to finish at the rim, and when the defense collapses, doing a good job of kicking to your teammates. They didn't do – there just wasn't a good rhythm and flow to them what they were doing, and yet the numbers look really good. I mean, you look at the field goal percentage, you look at those type of things, but at the end of the day, the eye test tells you a much different story, that he just wasn't as impactful or aggressive or as assertive as he's used to being.
Yep, true that. Bobby Manning's on his way. He was in the locker room.
He still got that shot at the end of the game, though. How do you feel about that, Sherrod? Would you drop a play like that? I mean, clearly they're going for the 2-for-1, but Jaylen, really? Like, that's the guy? I mean,
no, I wouldn't have. I would have tried to get. I would, that to me goes back to the whole offense defensive thinking. I would want to have somebody like Malcolm Brogdon on the floor in that situation. If not the guy to take the shot, certainly Coy, that I know the Hawks were very locked in on him because of how aggressive he was. So, no, this just wasn't Jaylen's night for that type of shot. But here's the thing. If you're Joe Mazzulla, you have to at least give some nod to the fact that Jaylen has made some big shots in late game situations for you this year. And you're rolling the dice and maybe he can do it again. But again, when he's healthy and maybe he's having a rough night, I feel better about him taking that shot than him not being healthy, whether it's physical, whether it's just mentally not, aggressive because he's worried about the hand. He just wasn't right. And he wasn't right all game long. And in that situation with a chance like that, I don't think I'm putting him in that position.
Yeah, I just thought it was the wrong decision, honestly. Not the reason they lost, but didn't help them, obviously.
No, it didn't.
Did not. So be it. Jayson Tatum taking some blame for the loss today. And again, it's hard to go in on him when you look at the stat line. But this was, as we said, a game where, you might have needed that superstar. You needed him to put you over the top. Didn't quite happen at the end there, but he didn't play a bad game per se. He actually was pretty good. And you just needed a little more. You needed top 5 Tatum. You got regular season Tatum. It was still good, but he took some blame for the performance. Marcus Smart. Hold on one second. Thanks, Dirk. Sorry, I haven't been in on the chat here for a little bit. Marcus Smart had a pretty good game. Here he is talking about the Hawks and how they kind of played tonight, and this now being a series.
I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be easy. That's why we let the outside noise continue to talk for us. It was our focus. We came in with a game plan. They did too, and they executed. And they hit some shots to really get them overboard. So, it could have been a sweep, but we ain't talking about that. It's one game at a time. We came out to play tonight, and we lost, so we got to come back and play again.
That little sliver of Christian Magliola there in the corner. Just kind of hanging out there.
Just hanging there, yeah. He's right, though. I mean, they
got to tell Ahmed to frame out Christian next time. Yeah.
Marcus is right, though. I mean, the Hawks played a great game, and that's just what happens when you play a great game. You should win more times than not, particularly when you're doing it at home. But the Celtics, like I said from early on, John, there's nothing I saw in this game that makes me feel that the tide of this series is going to change. To me, it's more like this is just a bump along the road that, again, it's not going to, I think, impact your final destination. I just don't see it.
I'm not stressed. Like I said, the things you want to see, again, Atlanta's not repeating this. There wasn't a thing that the Celtics did tonight that was like, oh my God, that, obviously the rebounding was not great. But then, you want Jaylen to be back to being Jaylen, and everything other than that, I'm not sweating it. Maybe Bobby Manning's a little more panicked. We'll get Bobby's take on the game. Bobby, does it bug you? Did it bug them? What was the vibe? Basketball only, baking later.
Yeah, I sense some frustration in terms of how they competed on the interior in this game, and that not only the rebounding, but how they defended the middle. I looked up and I did turn to Sherrod and I said, and I think this is how it finished, 0 blocks for them in this game.
After a 10-block game.
I think they had 12 last game, coming
Yeah.
within one of the franchise records. So the rim protection didn't hold up in this game.
There was none of it.
Young got that floater off, which had been a challenge for him throughout the series. And yeah, I think
They
Brown,
got Rob off his feet a little bit too.
Mhm.
One too many times, and he wasn't there to challenge when he needed to be in his minutes either.
Yeah, Celtics fouling went up in this game. Brown got into foul trouble. I think they actually set a playoff record for lower fouls last game. So the defense collapsed after, I thought, reaching as close as we'd seen it to that 2022 form tonight. Lots of drives by guys. Definitely not the boxing out effort you wanted to see in this game. And I think particularly in transition, they had some breakdowns here that just cost them. And offensively, I like the way they kept up. In fact, that fourth quarter, I thought they were excellent in terms of the shots they got to try to tie and win this game. So there's some stuff to like on that end. Again, though, you leave this game wondering, is this the same defense we saw last year? Rob not being able to play in crunch time in a game like this, them not having the ability to shut off Atlanta at key points. I know you guys are looking at it. I just heard you say there's not a lot to read from this in terms of the long run, but I actually feel the opposite. I came into this series saying that the Hawks can really challenge Celtics in some areas where they're weak. And there'll be other teams down the line that can challenge them in those areas. And if they're slipping up against the Hawks, not to say that they needed to sweep them. In fact, I had them in 5 here, and I still do. But they haven't competed well along the margins in this series to me. They haven't drawn free throws. They haven't rebounded. And I know they won that turnover battle tonight, but turning it over, I think, what was it, like 13 times here tonight still? Not great. Not great ball control. And Tatum put the loss on himself. He said, this one's on me. I turned it over way too much, especially in that second half.
That's the thing, though, is like every garden has weeds, like it's not going to be perfect. You're always going to have some areas that can be exploited. It's just ultimately, if you're playing your game and giving the right amount of effort. And if you're doing that, it's hard to complain. Did you think this was a low effort game or a poor execution game?
Poor execution. Yeah. Slip ups. And the Hawks did hit some tough shots. That Young one was ridiculous in the right corner. He got himself going.
A lot of tough shots. The interior was terrible, and they did some stuff, some trouble kind of rotating and defending and getting out, and they did give up some open threes. But, I mean, the Hawks must have hit a dozen, contested shots, if not more, throughout the game. It's just, that stuff's like, what are you going to do? You wish you hadn't given away some of the easier ones when they start making those too, but I felt like it was everything. Both what you gave them and what they got on their own was just I don't know if you're going to see that again. I don't know if you see that from any team again. That kind of shooting and that kind of shot making.
At the same time, you shot 44% from
Well, yeah, I was going to say that probably, but also they committed 18 turnovers. It's like that's hard to do, right?
This is a tough game to lose. Yeah, I'm almost
make those 3-point shots and then also win the game against the Celtics team. I mean, what chance that happens again?
I'm searching on the stat sheet for the answer, Josue, because you're right. They forced a ton of turnovers. They hit a ton of 21 threes for the Celtics here. The rebounding wasn't staggering. They gave up 11, which is a lot, but it's not 19. So, where did this really go wrong for them?
I mean,
look at this box score, man. You were to take the scores away, you'd be like, "Oh, Celtics probably won this game."
Yeah,
you would think so. That's what's so strange. I mean, the Celtics didn't hit the offensive glass. They didn't defend the paint, and then Atlanta made just ridiculous shots. They were at exactly 60% with 4.5 minutes to go. A field goal for the game. I mean, unfreaking real. So
56% from the field's high.
56. They were at 60, late in the fourth. A couple of misses there knocked it under.
A couple misses knocked them down. Yeah.
So it's unbelievable. This
they pretty much shot 60% for the night. Pretty much.
That's probably why they come away from this game not concerned. But I did sense the appropriate level of frustration from them, John. Yeah. This is definitely a game that I think they'll all bounce back from here. A couple moments, though. Tatum pointed out some indecisiveness in the lane, rather, that forced him to make some turnovers. He said he felt like he was trying to get fouled a lot of the time inside.
Yeah, he's got to do a little better there. If you're going to put one thing on Tatum, I would say that. always be closing, right? He can't be missing. He can't be missing in close. He can't be turning it over when he tries to attack. He's just got to be better. It's not asking too much, of that. That's his game. That's what he's doing. When he's getting all the way and he's making those moves, he's got to be able to finish. He's got to be able to make the right decisions.
And Brown too. I thought that last run out after he got the steal. Healthy Jaylen, I think, finishes through contact there.
We were talking about that.
About exactly that play.
Yep.
And he said he'll have to look back on it. I kind of insinuated that to him, and he didn't go there, but he said that he felt like he needed to be more aggressive in this game overall.
Yes. Hell yes. Way more aggressive. Because, you look at his – I mean, if you didn't watch the game at all and you just look at his final box score, you probably think, oh, well, Atlanta did a really good job of just not allowing him to get a lot of shots off. No, that's not what happened, folks. He wasn't attacking the way he normally does, which is why he didn't get more shots off. And the play, Bobby, that you pointed out and we had talked about earlier, I thought was one of the more crystal clear examples of Jaylen Brown dealing with this hand injury versus Jaylen Brown, if he did not have the hand injury, how different that play would have been. Jaylen would have looked to finish at the rim and probably would have got an and one because that's what he's been able to do for so many games this season. But for him to kick it out to Al and then Al swing it to Tatum, I mean, again, they just did. Their numbers look good, but there wasn't a rhythm to this team this game.
Well, I'll ask you this, and again, so – offense is the bread and butter with Jaylen. We know that, but when if you're somewhat limited, or maybe he doesn't fully understand it, but we do think it's somewhat in his head. You got to find ways to make impact elsewhere, right? So he had one rebound, which is straight on a night you're getting killed. One rebound is odd because we've seen Jaylen rack up like large rebound numbers,
But John, if you're concerned about your hand,
that's the thing about his hand. Yeah, that's what makes me wonder. Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, you might think twice about going into the jungle if you think you don't have if your weed whacker ain't ready to just do the damn thing. You might think about twice going into those trees.
So that's it. 2 free throws.
I guess Atlanta.
2 free throws only. That shows you something. And again, he's not a high free throw guy despite going to the paint. He never has been.
Tatum struggled there too. How many did he end up having?
He ended up with 9. Right. So not as bad.
That's about time because the first 2 games he was, what was it, 2?
Which is strange because he was attacking. He just wasn't getting hit.
Well, nobody was. They weren't.
If that was the same case tonight, I would have pointed at that. It's a big reason why they missed out on a lot of points there, but that was the case tonight. Sorry, Sherrod.
No. In fact, they played Joe's game by jacking up 48 threes. That's what he wanted after going in the low 30s the last 2 nights, which is strange. But they were scoring so much in the paint. Tonight's not the issue. But Jaylen, not on the glass, not at the free throw line. He's never a high assist guy. You don't expect that. But, make your bones on defense there. That didn't happen either. You want to see a little bit of effort. And, like, Murray's good. And, that's that, but make an impact somewhere if you're not going to be able to do it offensively is what I'm saying. If you're a little hesitant because you're afraid to attack, you got to find different ways to impact the game. I thought game 1 was amazing because he looked very uncomfortable, but he played well within whatever limitations he put on himself, or he knew. He had the 6 turnovers, but he was smart when he attacked. He was opportunistic. Just a little less tonight. I wonder how much thinking's going on.
He had that big fourth quarter block too in game 2 against Murray there.
And he did have a couple steals late tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his defense, at least in terms of disruptiveness, has been encouraging in this series because he's been involved and active on that end. You worry about the switches. You worry about, I think, some of the screening that Atlanta's doing, taking him out of this game. He had a tough time getting around those and staying with Murray, especially before halftime when Murray went on that big run. Murray's becoming a problem. I think they're catching on to what we talked about last game in terms of having him on the ball and phasing out Young a little bit there. That's what sent them on that big run in the second quarter. He's so shifty. And he can't shoot off the ball, but when he's on the ball, he's going to get by anybody on the Celtics, including White. I thought he gave White fits in this one.
He did.
No one could stay with him there. So they got to keep him off the point of attack because I think what's happening a lot on these rebounds is guys come to help on him, and then no one's back for the
No
rebound.
one
And then,
gets back.
Yeah.
and then when they switched Horford late, which I actually loved, I love when they send him out to the perimeter to guard guards. Because I think, again, it's like that Hauser thing. They try to go at him, and he actually stops them. But then no one's on the back line for those boards. So it's a great
And that's
point
where
with
they
Brown.
get killed. Yeah, that's
I wonder
what hurts him.
I wonder how many times Brown was in position on those. I'd have to go watch because I didn't see any in real time. But one rebound, you have to think he could have had more.
Yeah, I mean, when Alice switched out on Trey, one of your wings has to crash the glass, has to. And when you look at the numbers that the Celtics typically put up in terms of rebounding numbers, it's not a surprise if it's Jaylen Brown, because he gets a lot of rebounds for someone who plays the off guard. But this was the first game in this series where Trey actually seemed to really go to work on Al, and I do think that he put Al in some bad spots, and I think they made it worse by not being able to get some of those misses, because Trey missed, had at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 misses when Al was guarding him. And I think Atlanta got at least 2 offensive rebounds in that instance. And that's, it just absolutely deflates, the effort that he put in guarding, this diminutive, small, but incredibly quick guard. So.
Yeah, let me ask Bobby real quick. Bobby, we talked about it, your question to Grant earlier, and not really knowing he wasn't playing, not really knowing he was playing.
Good shit, by the way, Bobby.
Yeah, you looked at Hauser tonight. Again, this was one of those, like, the game looked like it was too fast for him when he was out there. He wasn't able to do anything. As soon as he caught the ball, he was getting swarmed. He didn't have a second to get a shot off. Played very few minutes. It looked like he just wasn't going to be able to keep up tonight, especially with the clip that Atlanta was scoring. And then Grant comes in, and he plays pretty good minutes. Now, first, Bobby, first react to the response. Were you surprised he responded that way when you asked him that question? And 2, did he earn more minutes, or is Joe going to go right back to what he did last, the first 2 games? Because again, we were guessing it might have just been the foul trouble that got him in here in the first place.
Yeah, Joe seemed to point in that direction. The foul trouble got him in there, and then he took advantage and kept rolling. Thought we might see him late and didn't. I asked Joe how tough of a decision that was, and maybe I could have worded that question better, but of course he hit me with it wasn't hard at all. So they went offense, defense was Smart, and I think it was White coming in and out there, or Brogdon rather. Smart was running in and out. So that was fine. I liked what they did there, especially after those 3-point misses from Smart. But in terms of Grant, this is why I want him out there. He's capable of having these volcanic nights. Hauser, maybe in a regular season setting, you see him go off 4 threes. I can't picture in the playoffs right now until it happens. But we know Grant can do this, so he should continue to play. He never should have sat to start this series. I know they won convincingly in game 1 and 2, but I don't get why they're messing around with them. I don't get it.
No, we're not doing this tonight, Bobby. Stop.
He played great.
Look,
he comes in, hits a couple of threes, gets a steal. Right. He's a guy who can box out. I know he's not.
Draw some charges, Bobby. Get the charges in there, Bobby. Come on, get all the Grant receipts out on the table. He has some charges he drew. Come on.
You think you get this performance without the two benchings? They go hand in hand.
Maybe you might be right. It's tough to tell. But 0 minutes is too low. And if we're talking about the future, he shouldn't get 0 again.
Bobby. See, that's where Sherrod and I disagree, because Sherrod thinks that he says he wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play at all in Game 4.
I think he goes back to 0.
I think he goes back to 0.
He's opened the door. You think he goes back to 0? Wow. I don't think he'll be one of the first ones off the bench, but I think he's opened the door for an opportunity. And
is there any way he helped you?
If he doesn't thrive in that opportunity, he'll go right back to the bench.
Is there any way he hurt you in this one? Because I can list off a million ways he helped them.
No, you just don't know you don't know if he's going to repeat the performance, 1. 2, I don't think it was ever the intention to play him again. To play him, I think just because Derek White got 2 fouls early, they had to go out of their rotations. They did. Yeah. He made the most of his opportunity. He got minutes. He got a little bit, a few more minutes later, but that was it. I don't think it was the plan to play him. And I think if everything goes to plan, as it did in Game 1 and 2, he's back on the bench.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The plan was to sweep this series, and now they have a series. So
they're 0-1 when Grant plays, Bobby. They are.
What was his plus minus in the end?
I thought he was good. I agree with you, Bobby, in theory. I agree that the version of Grant that was contributing to their playoff run last year is the type of guy you want to see here now play on this team with this team. But if you're playing well without him, you don't need him. But
we're talking how much? It shouldn't be 0.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it is.
I don't know.
I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to playing him. -3 out there.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to playing him, but I also don't think they miss him sometimes. That's kind of what I'm saying. Is like, I don't think you're missing a ton. You don't leave a lot of games thinking like this game needed more Grant. That's usually not the reason you think they lost a game, because there wasn't enough Grant in it. But if you can get good Grant, yeah, take it, get as much of it as you can.
And with Jaylen not being as aggressive or assertive as he normally is, then you absolutely needed a Grant out there tonight. No question about it. But are we confident that Jaylen is going to be as non-aggressive as he was in this game? I don't think so. I think he's going to be closer to the Jaylen that we've seen throughout the regular season than what we saw tonight. Totally. And if that's the case, Grant's role isn't quite what it was tonight, because you're not going to necessarily need that. And if Derek White doesn't get in foul trouble, I think we're back to ground zero, as in 0 minutes for Grant.
Yep.
There's a middle ground you can find. I don't see where Hauser's helping you so much that he needs to take Grant's minutes. That's where I'm at. I'd like to see 10-ish. He's never going to go back to 27. That's clear, especially as they try to make some of the small ball work. That's what I find intriguing, is that despite them getting battered on the boards, they are leaning into the small ball. And
you're not getting a lot out of Hauser.
No, they're not.
They're not. And that was the fear, is that like it would just – you'd try him, and then you wouldn't get a ton, and then you'd kind of
slightly related to this too. Did they play any double big tonight?
No, that was the other thing that I thought was strange. Because considering you're getting beat on the glass, you'd think they might, but then they were probably afraid that they weren't going to be able to get out on shooters if they did. So I mean, Rob played 19 minutes. That's it.
That's like ramp up after you just got hurt and missed 3 weeks, Rob. 19 minutes.
So we said certain things might happen. Like Joe might get, if things get tight, he might get conservative. And that means lean in on the guys who, the old faithfuls, your Al and this and that. And, Rob didn't get in there. Hauser didn't really get back in after he got a little bit of run. Obviously, you had a few Grant minutes, but you did have White and Brown in foul trouble, which made a difference there. But I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. I don't think they changed their approach much. Like, this isn't a panic, let's go and do a bunch of things different, but in game you might see some different adjustments.
In Boston, you saw
I don't know that they necessarily made them tonight. Whatever Atlanta was doing early, they did it middle, they did it late. They kind of did it the whole time. So I don't know if Joe could have done something to stop the bleeding at some point. It didn't happen.
Yeah, I'm impressed by Atlanta, the way they're able to challenge this.
Are they your new Toronto?
No, I just think it's pretty.
You say that so legitimacy. No, but
it's pretty impressive. We looked at this series coming in and said, "Oh, what a joke!" They got off the hook avoiding Miami. When you actually look at it, and who knows how Miami would have gone? I'm sure there's some ways they could have challenged the Celtics too. But the way the Hawks attack that glass, and it's so aggressive that it just kind of knocks the Celtics back on their ass and really makes them, I think, rethink the way they have to defend out there. The way they launch the amount of threes they have in this series at certain points and have been aggressive in looking for those. There's certain ways that I think I wrote coming into this series. They can keep these margins so close. The free throws, they're not fouling the Celtics the way other teams have, which is impressive. Those games 1 and 2 looked much more like blowouts than they actually were, if you actually look at some of those like marginal stats that Joe talks about a lot. And tonight, I think those things flipped this game on Boston's head when the shooting got close.
Celtics are still getting anything they want for the most part offensively all 3 games, which is why Atlanta's not going to be able to put up enough resistance without any real defensive effort. It's just not going to happen. So can they repeat this offensive game? Yeah, maybe in a 7-game series you can get 2 games like this, and maybe in the worst case scenario you get a 6-game series, but it's like their Celtics are still getting whatever they want whenever they want it offensively, and that's with Jaylen Brown not playing necessarily 100% and things being a little bit weird tonight. So I can't see the concern level.
We're still waiting to see this team find its defensive identity, and they're going to need to close this out in 5.
Yeah.
Because if they don't defend at a high level, if they don't rebound at a high level, this series is probably going 6 at this point. The way it's gone so far, right?
Yeah, it's possible. No, I think it's over in 5. But
I think it's over in 5.
Yeah, I think Celtics come out and drop the hammer in Game 4. But
You're gonna get the Game 1 Celtics again. That's what it is.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, we're gonna wrap. We're hitting that hour mark. These guys have more work to do. They're out in Atlanta, so follow us on Twitter. Follow us over at Celtics CLNS Media. If you guys are hockey fans, you might be able to catch a little bit of Bruins postgame if you run right now over on Bruins Ringside, our YouTube channel. They're going and they're talking a Bruins 4-2 win. They lead the Panthers 2-1 in their best of 7 series. They did it tonight without their top 2 centers, Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, both out of action. So a gutsy win
Krejci
for the
was
Bruins.
out too?
Yeah,
last minute scratch out of nowhere.
Wow.
He wasn't supposed to. He was with the he skated with the team in the morning, and he was a late scratch. So they were down. Their top 2 centers got a really good game out of Coyle, who had to step up. Good all around effort. Bruins up 2-1 in that series. All is well. Everyone can stop panicking. People were really worried after that Game 2 loss. I was there at the Garden. Holy crap, was that a quiet crowd? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, go check that out if you want to check out some Bruins post game. Follow all of these guys for all of their great work covering the series. There's much more stuff coming out on our channel later on tonight and on the CLNS Media website.
Yeah, stay tuned.